switch the video yet. This actually is the answer. So one of the first questions I get once people get their American Bresse chickens is, what do I feed them? I gotta feed them something special. I gotta feed them something different. I gotta feed them something great. At first, I start mine out with just a 22% chick crumble. I don't get anything medicated, just an all-natural chick crumble. And I'll feed them that the whole time they're in the brooder. Now once your chicks are ready to leave the brooder, which for me, I like to shoot for about 3 weeks of age to move them outside in a Joel Salatin style chicken tractor, I switch them over to my bulk feed, which is an 18% corn-based ground feed. It's just your regular bulk ground corn. I've tried feeding that to the chicks when they first hatch, but they pick through it so much because it's got some bigger pieces of corn in it. They just seem to really do better giving them that crumble for the first few weeks. So once your roosters get to be about 12 weeks of age, and hopefully you were able to raise them outside on green grass with lots of room to run, because that is what the American Bresse love, and that's what they thrive in. But once we get into that 14-week mark, that's when people start asking about, how do I finish this bird? There's a lot of theories out there, and there's a lot of different ways you can do it, and I'm not saying any one of them are wrong. But I am telling you, it doesn't have to be as complicated as you think. So there is one common thing that everybody knows and talks about, and that is they need milk at the end. And I would say that's true. But now people start talking about, is it supposed to be horse's milk, or goat's milk, sheep's milk, cow's milk, milk from the store, milk replacer? And I'm not going to tell you any one of those are wrong. And it all comes down to what you can get. But what I will tell you is processed milk isn't good for people, and it's not good for animals. So you might see some troubles trying to fatten out your American Bresse chickens with processed milk from the store. If that's your only option, give it a shot. You're only going to learn from it, right? I get the question about milk replacer. Me personally, I don't even like to feed my calves milk replacer. If you look at the ingredients list, it's not the greatest thing. And for you to be feeding your chicken that as a big portion of its diet right before you butcher it, there's going to be a lot of that stuff in the meat. I'm just not comfortable with it. So with all this being said, what is your best bet? Well, your best bet is raw milk. I don't care if it's goat milk, sheep milk, cow milk, horse milk, milk a pig if you want. I don't care. But raw milk is your best bet. The fact that this cow can turn grass into milk that I can soak the roosters' feed in and feed them so that they become the best tasting chicken in the world is incredible. So you can do cracked corn. I've seen a lot of people do wheat, barley. In my opinion, I don't want to change everything up on these roosters. I already took them from off the pasture and brought them inside in a coop on deep bedding. I want to keep their feed the same. So this is their regular grain that they normally eat, and I just take and soak it in this milk. Now as far as, a lot of people like to get real scientific with this, and well, what's your ratio? And honestly, I want them to get as much milk as possible. So what I like to do is put enough milk in here that once you get it all stirred up, it's still kind of milky, which will give the grain enough milk to soak up all night. So we'll mix this all up, which I don't have quite enough milk in here. This is what you'll want it to look like in the morning. I want to put more milk in here to give all this grain the opportunity to soak up as much milk as possible, so we can get as much of this milk in that chicken to give it as much marbling as possible. I'm going to go switch her out, get Nellie in, milk her, and I'll show you what the consistency looks like after that. So we got the second cow milked. We put some more milk in here, and you can see it's very liquidy. We got plenty of milk to feed ratio. So now we're going to let this sit overnight, which is going to give all this grain time to soak up. And in the morning this will be almost firm, a lot like oatmeal. And then we'll go ahead and give it to the roosters. This is oddly satisfying to stir with your hand. But if you don't go through here, that's a big old fly. But if you don't go through here and stir this with your hand and make sure you get every last dry clump, there'll still be dry clumps in the morning, which again isn't the end of the world, but what we're trying to do is get as much milk into that chicken as possible to give us our marbled meat. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and put Nellie back to pasture. I'm going to go get a few hours of sleep. And in the morning, we can come out and look at this bucket and see how much of that milk that grain soaked up. Go ahead and feed the American Bresse roosters and talk a little bit more about how long you should be feeding your American Bresse roosters milk. So here we are the next morning, which is about 6 hours later for me. You can see, and there's still milk on top now, which is good because that means all this grain has soaked up as much milk as it can. So on the night feeding, because I'll be feeding them out of this same bucket, it's going to end up soaking up even more of this extra milk. So let's go in the coop and start feeding some of these American Bresse roosters. So I got dim lights in this coop. They're on a timer. So it gets even darker at night for them. And you can hear them going through the pecking order this morning. There is some fighting. It's not horrible. But with a bunch of roosters in here, it's to be expected. I got a little too much milk in there the night before, but I clean these out once a day at night so they don't get completely disgusting. As far as how long to feed these roosters milk, I'll feed them milk up to 4 weeks, part of that being because I butcher my own roosters, and a lot of times it'll take me 4 weeks to get all of them butchered. I don't sit down and do it all at once. I don't get a bunch of people over here. I just do it by myself, me and Everett usually. We'll do like 16 of them a day. You need to have raw milk, and you need to soak some sort of feed in the raw milk at the end. But ultimately, you just need to do what works for you. Experiment with it, have fun with it, figure it out. The main goal is to get as much fat on these things as you can at the end. That's what really makes this meat taste the best.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Is that a great idea?